Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome to this session of law. Today's session we are going to talk about the definition of laws. When we talk about the definition of laws, different people think differently, and with the intellectual mind they have, they think depending on the knowledge they have. Some people have different ideologies, some people have different customs. So depending on these customs, when they talk about laws, it differs. Sir John Austin says that law is a command set by a sovereign or superior being to an inferior being, enforced by sanctions. So this is also one definition of law. It is said by Sir John Austin. So here he says that it's commands set by a sovereign power or superior being to an inferior being, and it is enforced by sanctions. And again we have Professor Hertz. Law is a necessary tool to regulate and protect all collective interests of the society. So we have a collective interest in the society. We have to protect them. We have personal interest. If collective interests of all people contradicts with the personal interest, then we have to give precedence to that public interest. So depending on the interest, depending on the people's rights, he has given us a definition of law. And again we have Karl Marx. He is totally different, thinks in a different way, and says that an instrument used by the wealthy class to dominate and exploit the weaker and laboring class. So in other words, he is telling that laws actually are utilized by the wealthy people to dominate and to exploit the poor. So this is also a different sort of meaning. So there are different meanings we can get from the definition of law. But anyhow, there is a general meaning. Generally, law can be described as a set of rules developed over a long period of time. So, set of rules developed over a long period of time that regulates the interactions between the people, each other, right? And which sets standards of conduct between individuals and governments, and which is enforceable through sanctions. Again, enforceable through sanctions. So this is a general meaning of a law. And out of this definition, we can derive to the conclusion that there are three things we have to remember. That is, a law consists of a set of rules, and again it regulates the interactions between people in a coherent manner. The interactions between parties in a coherent manner. Again, we know that it can be enforceable through sanctions. So this general meaning gives us these outcomes to us, so that we can be able to judge according to what we get. When we consider the diverse ideologies and diverse thinkings, we are sure that we have to divide these laws into different groups. So there are mainly four groups, right? Other people, they come up with many groups, but we will give you some common groupings. That is, first is a criminal law and civil law. That is the first group, right? The main four divisions of laws. The other one is municipal law and international law. The other one is public law and private law. Surely if you have public law, then you should have private law. Then the other one is substantive law and procedural law. So these are the four divisions of laws. And when we talk about four divisions of laws, we know that there are types of laws, right? Mainly we have this civil law, right? We have which has been derived from the Europe mainly. We have this one, civil law, and then we have got common law, which is derived from Great Britain, right? Mainly in the between the year 1066 to 1400. So this has been derived from UK, Great Britain, when they were the superpower in the world. And again we have this Islamic law. If we believe that there is a creator, the Islamic law can be considered as the only unique law which is suitable for all times, at or for all the people. So that is when we consider the Islamic law. So these three types of laws are there, and we can see the world divided into many groups as such, following these laws. So we find that people who were under the British colonialism, they follow the British law, that is the common law. So we find in Malaysia, we find in Australia, they are practicing widely the British law, that is the common law. And again, we have this civil law that is derived from Europe, and we find in Japan and places like China, they have this civil law, right, which they actually obtained from Europe, and then they have modified it according to their custom and according to their belief. So this is it. And Islamic law we have mainly in Saudi Arabia. So when we consider about these laws, actually we find different countries practicing differently. Some adopt pluralism of laws, right? They actually take part from civil law and apart from Sharia law, that is Islamic law, and apart from the common law. So different countries practice differently depending on the ideologies they have, the belief they have, the religion they practice, and the customs they have. Depending on these things, it differs from countries to the other. So this is a legal pluralism. And when we consider the law, when we try to make it, we know that there are so many influencing powers to these laws. Likewise, political power, right? And actually, you know, the economy, the type of economy that we have, it also has got an influence on the type of law that we will be practicing in our country. We have to consider the economic system of our country in order to make laws. So we have planned economy system, we have a market economy, we have mixed economy. These types of economies will have a big impact on these laws that we make. So every country makes their laws depending on their way of life, depending on their belief, depending on their customs, and depending on the educational standard that they have. We are moving towards a globalization. Again, we will have to consider the belief that we have. So depending on the belief, it is not easy for us to bring or import other countries' laws and then implementing it on our civil society, because they will be having again a different sort of thinking. Their belief is different, their way of life is different, their custom is different, so it will be difficult. So again, we have this dual system to which we have to give the priority, international law or the public law that we have in our country. So these things we have to consider when we are talking about the law. So when we are talking about the law, we have to know that there should be powers which controls the making of laws, implementing of laws, power that controls the legislature. So we have different powers in a country, especially in a democratic country, but in other countries like who are following a dictatorial system, they will not have this separation of powers. So here in a democratic state, Maldives is one of the democratic state. So here we have the separation of powers, and we have an elected legislature, a body which decides on which laws should be passed to ensure that the people's wishes, for example, freedom of wealth, are met. Then again, we have an elected executive or the government body which makes the decisions that put the laws into actions. And again, we have judiciary that rules on any disputes about laws, whether between the government and the people, criminal law, or between the individuals, civil law. So we have to have a judiciary. Here we have a judiciary, a very strong judiciary, which is composing of Supreme Court, High Court, and lower courts, consisting of civil court, criminal court, drug court, juvenile court for small kids, and drug court. So there are various courts under this system. So these systems are made in order to ensure the justice among people, ensure that all the people get their rights and justice.